Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Activism Uncensored. What are we up to now, Josh? Episode 11?
I don't know, episode 12.
I think this is episode 11.
I'm losing count.
Yeah.
So we've got some news to go over, haven't we, here? From today.
We've got some stuff that's just happened.
What's today's date? Is today's date the 2nd of May?
It's the 3rd of May today. And yeah,
right.
There's something that's happened. Like we said in the previous episode, we were going to keep our eye on the new legislation that that the government were trying to get through. We've seen quite a reaction, shall we say, today from the police, despite the fact that this bill is like brand new. The government have been acting as though it's gone straight through. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So that was with the Just Stop Oil actions today in Parliament Square in London. And it's just an overreaction. This is a massive overreaction. They should be dealing with the climate crisis itself rather than just thinking of ways to try and get rid of the protesters, because these are just ordinary people in civil disobedience. Or just in a march. It's a right that has been hard won and fought for, you know. Most of our rights that we've got that we maybe take for granted these days have come from marches and things like this, the beginnings of social movements. So we're going to go into that in a bit more detail in a bit. Yeah, first of all, we're going to see Rachel's clip. And then we're going to come back and have a bit of a chat about that. And then we're going to see a clip of another guy called David. So first of all, let's see what happened with Rachel's arrest today in Parliament Square.
My name is Rachel. I work at a university and I'm here today because the right to protest is being taken away. And in the middle of a climate crisis, our government doesn't care about us. They're taking away our rights and freedoms. And as they're drilling for more oil and gas, they know that this means that people around the world are going to die, and they don't care. I'm here today to say that we have a right to protest, and we have a right to life. We have a right to a future.
All right, well, she's basically just saying everything what we've just said, like, the government are taking away our right to protest. They're arresting people for marching in the streets. It's not good, because one day you might think of, well, those climate change protesters, they don't like me, you know. I don't care about the climate change thing. I think it's all a hoax. I think it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Even if you think all that, then what's going to happen when they say, I don't know, the government turn around and say, right, we're selling the NHS now. And you all go up in arms and you're trying to protest, and they go, oh, no, remember, we made that protesting stuff illegal. So when they take our protest rights that are being taken are your protest rights. And that's something everyone needs to realise.
That's right, it's all connected. And
we're all same people.
This is preemptive protesting. A huge amount of protesting is going to come because of the consequences of climate change. A lot of it is going to be ugly and messy to do with the huge refugee crisis that unfortunately is going to get worse because of climate change. And whether it is for access to food or water here, or a refugee situation, or whatever it is, people are going to have no other choice but to protest and go into the streets, and they'll, realise that they've, tripped themselves up.
It'll be too late.
Yeah, precisely. So, shall we follow on now with David's clip? And do you want to tell us a bit about...
You got David?
Yeah.
Let's stick him on then.
Do you want to tell us a bit about how David first started?
Let's see the clip first.
Okay. So here he comes. This is David's clip from Parliament Square today.
UN Secretary General says, we're on a highway to climate hell. fossil fuel industry is killing us, killing our future, killing people in the global south now. It's not a future problem, it is here.
So they're just two examples of the 23 arrests that happened at Parliament Square today. And Josh,
David.
you actually, you and David go back quite a bit. Do you want to tell us
Yeah,
a
we
bit about
do. We do actually go back. Well, we've just been in court together recently for the Silverstone Formula One. He was my co-defendant. He tried to get onto the Formula One track with me. He didn't make it on the track. He got pulled back by some civilians. But what he said about the UN Secretary General is saying we're on the highway to climate hell. The UN Secretary General that's the highest diplomatic position in the United Nations, which is the highest.
Yeah, Antonio
It's
Guterres.
the highest. It's the highest diplomatic position in the entire world, and he is saying, the disaster that we're heading towards, and his video on YouTube, the Secretary General of the United Nations, has got 16,000 views in total on their website. On TikTok this week, this channel on TikTok with 1 minute views has had over 10,000 views now. Do you know that, Elvis? I took a calculator and I went around and added them all up.
Really?
10,000. We've almost had as many views as the United Nations YouTube channel with him, with the top man speaking on it. So What does that say?
The jury has reached a verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises. It is a file of shame, cataloguing the empty pledges that put us firmly on track towards an unlivable world. We are on a fast track to climate disaster. This is a climate emergency. Climate scientists warn that we are already perilously close to tipping points that could lead to cascading and irreversible climate impacts. But high-emitting governments and corporations are not just turning a blind eye. They are adding fuel to the flames. They are choking our planet based on their vested interests and historic investments in fossil fuels, when cheaper, renewable solutions provide green jobs, energy security, and greater price stability. Climate activists are sometimes depicted as dangerous radicals. But the truly dangerous radicals are the countries that are increasing the production of fossil fuels. Investing in new fossil fuel infrastructure is moral and economic madness. Such investments will soon be stranded assets, a blot on the landscape and a blight on investment portfolios. Today's report comes at a time of global turbulence. Inequalities are at unprecedented levels. The recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic is scandalously uneven. Inflation is rising, and the war in Ukraine is causing food and energy prices to skyrocket. But increasing fossil fuel production will only make matters worse. Choices made by countries now will make or break the commitment to 1.5 degrees. A shift to renewables will mend our broken global energy mix and offer hope to millions of people suffering climate impacts today. Climate promises and plans must be turned into reality and action now. It's time to stop burning our planet and start investing in the abundant renewable energy all around us.
That video you've just seen now, that is the Secretary General of the United Nations, the top guy who's been talking about. And why is his message not on the news?
Well, it's not. And that's, again, part of the problem. The media
Why not, though?
aren't responding to, if they were responding to the climate crisis as much as there were a lot of other stuff, whether it's, the war in Ukraine, or whether it's, what we've got up and coming with the coronation here in the UK, it's just not really getting anywhere near as much coverage as it should. And they really need to be responsible, the same way the government needs to be responsible and look out for people and really highlight things like the IPCC report and the reaction to the IPCC report by people like Antonio Guterres. Absolutely, they should. So here we are. We found ourselves in a position that not only the government are wanting to heed the words of Antonio Guterres, they're willing to legislate against those who are strongly emphasising that he should, and taking out to the streets, literally, and having their right to protest removed. We still, of course, have other people who are involved with Just Stop Oil in prison at the moment. Not to,
I think it's up to 9 right now, isn't it? David Nixon. A lot of the people in prison right now, I know them personally. They were in Insulate Britain with me.
David Nixon, Mark Coleman, people like Morgan and Marcus, who we've mentioned previously, and go on to mention a little bit more about them further on in this episode. They shouldn't even be spending one day in prison for what they've done. These are peaceful people. They're not violent, and they have taken the actions that they've taken because they feel rightly that they don't have any other choice. So, our thoughts and best wishes go out to everyone who's in prison at the moment because of their actions against climate change. So,
Catherine was in Insulate Britain with me.
Catherine Renee Nash.
Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Catherine, Renee Nash, Morgan Trowland, which is my personal friend, Alison Lee, who was an absolute fucking legend, one of my close friends, David Nixon, incredibly close with them. These guys are in my block team. Alice Lee, David Nixon, Christian Murray Leslie, and Reverend Mark Coleman were in Insulate Britain with me, and most of them there were actually in my block team. So they were the ones in my team who are going out shutting down the road with on the M45 with repeatedly. So
David Nixon and Mark Coleman were on my first action as well.
Well,
Just Stop Oil. So let's move on a bit now. Go back to last weekend with the big rally and march for Morgan and Marcus, because I guess that ties in with what we're saying just there. I'm going to put a couple of clips in here of a couple of the testimonies that we heard from someone who has spent a lot of time with him in Just Stop Oil as well.
It's so important to be at this site, just a stone's throw from Westminster, and also down the line to you, Morgan, sat in prison. And there's a direct line here between your imprisonment and this building, and that is because you are political prisoners. You have been imprisoned for demanding that the government just stops oil. It's such a simple and clear demand. But instead of conceding to the demand of ordinary people standing up, and instead of listening to the words of all of the world's scientists, the government has chosen to try to silence us with oppressive, draconian and anti-democratic laws. Shame on them. In the face of this horror, will you resist? In the face of this horror and this absolute lies, we will continue to tell the truth. In the face of these oppressive laws, we will continue to resist. We will continue to slow march around the streets of London until this government makes a clear and solid statement that they will just stop oil.
So, amazing scenes to see people gathering and showing solidarity for Morgan and Marcus on last Saturday, right in the heart of London, and that's what we need to see more of, really. People coming together and highlighting these cases. So then, a really sort of important part of the day was when we met up with the Black Lives Matter rally as well. and that sort of doubled the numbers of the march that we were on. Morgan and Marcus were always greatly aware of the problems in the United Kingdom with racism, and obviously there have been a lot of cases recently in the story about unfortunate cases of racism within the Metropolitan Police, and they were there to highlight that. It was really important when we came together because Morgan and Marcus were such great followers of Black Lives Matter, and then further down into Whitehall. So
Can we see these? Can we see these clips?
yeah, these are coming up just now.
We all know why we're here today. Because our government is so scared by the power of ordinary people, scared by our power, that they feel the need to try and scare us, punish us, even imprison us. I was sent to prison. Last November, I climbed a gantry above the M25, caused a bit of traffic, and was remanded to Bronzefield Prison for 8 days. I am not a criminal. There are currently 8 political prisoners in the UK right now. And just 1 week ago, our friends Marcus and Morgan were sentenced to 2 years, 7 months and 3 years respectively in prison for non-violently fighting for a future, for our lives. They climbed the QE2 bridge in an act of self-defense against this genocidal government who continue to accelerate us towards climate disaster, civilizational collapse and human extinction.
Organising consistently, but it can't just be liberal, more black CEOs. It can't be having more Asian or black MPs. We need to recognise that this xenophobia, this racism that we're seeing has its roots in capitalism. So if you care about migrants, if you care about the climate crisis, if you care about Palestinian lives, then get involved and organise. Be an anti-capitalist, be an anti-racist, but most of all, be a socialist, because it's not enough to be not racist, you need to be anti-racist, and to be anti-racist, you must be an anti-capitalist. So solidarity, Black Lives Matter, and workers of the world, wherever you're from, whether you're a refugee from Iraq, whether you're a refugee from Afghanistan, whether you're an immigrant from Africa, whether you were born and bred here, unite and tear down this racist capitalist system.
And that's something that has to keep happening, you know, organisations coming together, organisations working together, because the oppression that we're getting as well from the police force are all the same. Black Lives Matter have a great network of teams who keep the eye out for racism within the police, and it's just really great to see everyone coming together. And we're all victims of the same sort of legislation, you know. So let's keep that up. What do you think about these sort of coalitions and coming together of organisations?
Well, it's absolutely crucial. I mean, we're not going to win unless we do that. We need to unite together into one. I've said it many times before on the podcast. I think we need to unite together into one movement. We need to become one big movement that stands for all its members.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
we all need to be non-violent for a start, and we need to be there for Black Lives Matter, and we need to be there for Animal Rebellion, and we need to be there for the social justice causes, really. That you know, insulate Britain. I'm sure we could all do with some free insulation from the government.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things that we can concede. We can get our government to concede on a lot of things if we apply enough pressure. You know,
absolutely, and that pressure's got to be applied simultaneously. and in the same direction.
Across the board.
Yeah, across the board.
Yeah.
Really is.
More than that as well, though, we need to like study the movements of the past, the previous movements that rose up with millions of people and then collapsed into nothing. We need to study like how that happened and how the state handles grassroots movements and how they destabilize grassroots movements. And we need to be recognizing that there are forces within states that specialize in destabilizing and disrupting and destroying grassroots movements, and we need to be actively working against that. So it's not just as simple as we, build it and then they will come. We're going to have to be really clever now, because the future of of the human race rests in the balance, really.
Yeah, it really does. This is such an important time in history. And we keep saying this. We've said this in a few episodes so far. It's important to be on the right side of history, and I know that I, for one, definitely want to be on the right side of history. However many tipping points we managed to prevent from coming to pass, and our rights are just so important. That can't be emphasised enough. Just how important it is, and yeah, this country has had its fights and its struggles before. You can't take your eye off, these these politicians, these right-wing politicians who just want to label us as lefty wokerati or whatever the latest syntax that they're trying to come up with. Woke is the latest one in this fake culture war. So anything that conservatives don't like is woke, anything that's anti-racist is woke, and so on and so forth. Caring for each other is the fact that they're trying to make empathy outright. People should be ashamed for having empathy. According to them, it's just ridiculous.
Who should be ashamed? Well, where's this come from?
Well, just the thing that the Conservatives...
Could you explain a bit more?
Just to explain a little bit more about that. Basically, for the next election, the Conservatives and the hard right, they don't have a Brexit to sell. So they're having to clutch at straws. Obviously, a lot of people are really upset with the government for many reasons at the moment. For them to sort of have something to sort of grasp to and sell, and also to appeal to some, let's say, less than savoury people on the right wing, they're cooking up this phony culture war, this us and them sort of divide and rule kind of thing. So anyone who's involved in protest is woke, not including racist language on repeats of 70s situation comedies is woke, this kind of thing, and it's just getting beyond ridiculous now. So anything that they don't like, they just sort of have this label and they point at it and say, oh, that's woke, but they're just trying to brew up all this hate and division, whereas what we need is more people coming together as one, like we've said a few times. And I saw a very interesting thing on the internet, a picture that described that very well. It's a metaphor saying if you get a glass jar and you go around the garden and you collect 10 red ants and 10 black ants and you put them in the jar together, they'll go around each other and tend to ignore each other. But if you shake the jar, then all of a sudden the ants start fighting and killing each other. Yeah. Because the black ants think that the red ants shut the jar, and the red ants thought the black ants shut the jar, and the two sides are fighting each other. But the question is really, they should be asking who shook the jar and why. Exactly, and
stop fighting against the common man. Stop fighting against immigrants. Stop fighting against people that want to be assigned to a different gender. Stop fighting against people who are standing up for climate change, or people who want to get vaccinated, or people who don't want to get vaccinated. We are all the same people. Like
one
we
thing
all-
I forgot to mention earlier about this language, this right-wing language, this syntax, is that they've taken. Do you remember we used to say that things were progressive, in politics, and they just don't want to say that they're anti-progressive, so they cling to this word woke, which now they think if you labelled us woke, that should somehow be an embarrassment. The origins of the word come from the suburbs and ghettos of America, where African Americans were basically saying be alert for racism on the streets and in the police and even in the education system, and just be alert. And that was decades ago, and now it's come to be appropriated by the right wing as some sort of something that people should be embarrassed by, but also to replace or that's not
Can I tell
really
you
the best
where I
word.
came across the first?
To shield the
Right,
fact
but-
that they're anti-progressive, basically, yeah. Go ahead.
Where I came across the word woke, I originally thought it came to mean the meaning was woke meant you realise that the governments and the corporations and the news are all bought and the narrative and they're all feeding you bullshit.
Yeah,
I thought that was woke. I thought
that really is
once you
more
realise
towards the true
it's
meaning
the
of the
it's
word.
the world's biggest con.
Yeah,
It's the world's biggest con. The financial banking system is the world's biggest con, and your election is an illusion because you've only got two parties to choose between, and both parties control the same, abide by the same interests of the corporations.
that's right.
That's what I thought woke meant. That should be the meaning of woke.
Exactly. So it's almost been appropriated, like I said, or they're trying to appropriate it, and you'll just keep hearing it more and more and more, and it's just got to stop. It's just got to stop. It's ridiculous. It's not only childish, but it detracts from the conversation as well. The conversation that we should be having, and that's what they want. This is what the people on the right want, and what the Conservative government, Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman want. I think we should.
Can I tell you about? Sorry, go on.
No, it's
gonna.
fine.
Today, I've been doing my unpaid work. So, a community service, community payback.
Yeah, you've posted a few
It's
short
actually-
videos about that on the page, so
It's
tell us a
actually-
bit more about that.
It's actually pretty shit. I'm not gonna lie, but it's pretty funny because you have like 10, 15 lads all standing around doing nothing, spending half your time in the brew room. But they're very strict about your phone. So I've been like trying to grow the Twitter for this podcast on my phone. I'm getting told
Yeah.
off for my being on my phone, but something interesting happened today because I had this wireless earpiece in my ear, and I was on the phone to my girlfriend, and I've been on it for quite some time, and I let on to a couple of the other lads I was working with that I was on the phone. I said, I'm on the phone, just give us a minute. And 30 seconds later, the fucking slave driver runs over and says, are you on your phone? Have you got an earpiece in?
Right.
And I said, well, eventually I say, yeah, look. And he goes, take it out. I said, look, I'm on the phone with my partner. I'm not a child. And he went, take it out now. And I just went, no. I went, right, get your shit and fuck off, basically. You're not in for you're sending you home for the day. And I was like, right, I'll take it out, fuck's sake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just felt treated like a fucking kid. I'm still gonna. Oh, by the way, they have the orange vests, the community payback. So, so you know what I've been doing, don't you?
You can't win, you do
Yeah,
it your way,
you know.
you end up in an orange vest, you do it their way, you end up in an orange vest. It's
Well, that's not where I was
What are you
going
gonna
with
do?
it. I was saying, where it says community payback, I'm thinking about. I've been taking one vest today, and I'm going to write in black paint, being the word my, and then the community payback. So my community payback is being part of Just Stop Oil, and then turning all the community payback vests into Just Stop Oil vests.
Yeah, it should be mandatory. Everyone goes and does a
they
slow
got-
march.
Well, yeah, we should have like some community payback vests with Just Stop Oil on it, because I think it'd be quite funny.
Yeah,
It's like printing Just Stop Oil on police station. So when you get when you get arrested, if you're cold in a cell, you can ask for a jumper, and they usually let you keep it. So like I've got like fucking 4 police issue jumpers, and it's like printing Insulate Britain on a police issue jumper. It's priceless. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man. So how much longer have you got on that?
Oh, it's going to take me all year to do it. If I do one, I've got 120 hours, and I've done 12 hours.
Okay. Well, don't let it grind you down, because obviously that's
Well,
what they want.
I don't let it grind me down.
Yeah.
A lot of the lads don't do any work, and they're all kind of like lounging around the place.
Yeah.
I've worked in construction for years, so I just pick up a shovel and a wheelbarrow and start cracking on. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. Oh man. Well, hope you get through it all okay, and yeah.
Oh, it's all right.
that was a drag, but-
By the way, next week. I'm going to be interviewing one of my. I'm going to be interviewing one of the other workers. I'm going to take my tripod in, and we're going to record an episode like behind the back of the football stadium whilst the manager's not looking. And
Okay.
they're gonna. I'm having them on because they adamantly disagree with me, and I think we should have people who disagree with us on the podcast occasionally to so it's not all people that agree with us.
Right.
Because
So-
the kinds of arguments these guys are putting to me, the points, would probably be the kinds of arguments that the average person would put to you who doesn't know anything about the climate. Because these guys don't know anything about the climate. I'm not trying to degrade them and say they're not intelligent. They've obviously got different interests, and they're interested in cars and things and other stuff like that, and they are intelligent in their own fields. But in this field, they're vastly unaware about the climate. So they say, like, I should go live in the usual thing. Why don't you go live in a forest and drink out of a stream then? So you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're producing carbon, and I'm saying to them, like, the climate crisis. If the climate crisis was a house fire, right? Going vegan, even though it does help, it's like getting a thimble of water and throwing it through the window into the flames.
Mm.
It is a step in the right direction, but overall, it's not really going to change anything. You need, even if like 20% of everyone were vegan, you might be throwing like a few buckets of water into a house fire.
Yeah.
We need like top down 100%. Like, I'm quite sad to say this, but to meet the climate stuff that we actually need to get the entire planet to be carbon negative in a short period of time, I actually think we're going to end up losing some freedoms. Like, I ask you the question, Elvis? How would you feel if, say, we got our own way, and now all of a sudden you're not allowed to own a petrol car? It's illegal. You're not allowed to buy petrol. It's illegal. You're not allowed to have a coal stove. It's illegal. You're not allowed to chop down a tree. It's illegal.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to raise livestock anymore because it's illegal. Like, those are freedoms that will have, because there's going to be some people who say, well, I'm not stop eating meat, and I'm not going to stop burning fossil fuels, and I'm not going to stop this, and you've got to be like, well, it's a law now, so how do you feel about that?
Well, it's like you say. We brought it up a few times. It's got to come from the top down. It's system change, not people change. Yet again, here we are saying it, and to suddenly halt. The longer you wait to integrate into a new form of society, the more the more problems you have. You know, to just immediately cut something off from having it on one day to not having it another causes, you know, severe social impacts. Yeah, causes havoc.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, for the right reasons or not, and things like this do have to come from the top down, because at the end of the day there are elected, you know, leaders. So, or, you know, they're at least supposed to be responsible for us, or act like they are. And it's just not quick enough. It's just, well, it's not even happening in the right direction.
What
so
if-
it's not happening at all.
So, you know, if you've implemented, if someone like me or you came along now and implemented these radical changes that would just turn the economy on its head, the economy would probably tank, right? So you'd have to do is you obviously try and create the new economy where people transition up to building green energy, and you'd have to like have green concrete that's carbon negative that exists now, and mass produce a shit ton of that, and produce windmills and everything. But I think we should try and meet the basic needs of everybody, like free food, for example. We could say if the economy collapsed, we could end the animal agriculture industry and keep the farming going, and then produce endless amounts of vegan food, because we're not feeding the cattle anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We would have an abundance of grain if we stopped producing beef, like more than we could possibly use.
Yeah,
so we
the
could make
solutions
food.
are there. The solutions are there. They're just not being implemented. And when
If
you
we
look
ended
at
the
oil
production of beef, we could make corn and vegan food free for everybody. With the sheer amount of it.
yeah, it's all over the place. And these are just the sort of things that we need to get in quickly. And we're on this, you know, clock now. We're on this timer, and the clock's ticking away, and the government is sat on their hands, and that's why, you know.
Well, they're not. They're not sat on their hands. They're actively
No, they're
arresting
running laughing to
people
the
who
bank.
are-
They're running laughing to the bank, yeah. But in terms of moving to renewables, that's why, you know, these 23 people today and many other people have decided that they're going to put their lives on the line, and they've had enough. And this is going to keep going on for weeks and months in London. The government have reacted the way that they have, and that's not really going to make organisations like Just Stop Oil take the foot off the gas. And already, you know, a lot of other people are getting involved. Over 2,000 people have signed up. You know, I was there for 4 days. I managed to sign up, you know, dozens, scores of people, myself personally, which I'm pretty proud of. It's good to see, you know, new people coming to you and saying, oh, I do want to get involved, I do want to make a difference. And people are opening their eyes now as to what Just Stop Oil are about, and that we're not, you know, trying to stop people using coconut oil or having olive oil in the diet and all these other ludicrous things that we've mentioned before, that people seem to sort of get wrong about us when they read the name Just Stop Oil. So,
Elvis.
yeah, Josh.
Did you see the latest video that I put on today for TikTok? When people say to me that you can't do something about the climate crisis, you're too small, you're never going to get the government to change its policy, then I say to them, if you had met Gandhi as a young man and he told you that he was going to create the largest non-violent movement in the history of mankind, that he was going to drive the British out of India, despite that they'd enforced their rule with violence well over 100 years and had no intention of ever leaving, then that would have seemed completely unrealistic. But it happened anyway. Sometimes in history, the impossible can happen. And I am telling you now that we, Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion, Rebellion and the rest of us are going to force the UK government to take action on the climate emergency. We're going to force them to stop drilling for new oil and gas. People will look back on this decades from now and marvel how once again seemingly impossible and unrealistic was pulled off against all odds. Yeah, so that video I released this morning, and it was my first go of. That's a speech that I wrote in prison, and that's a speech that I delivered in Parliament Square. But I've recited it there with some Hans Zimmer music playing over it, and I feel like it has a very adding music to a speech adds a very adds meaning, adds some power to the words. I think. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really good clip. Just as long as we had a copyright thing with the Hans Zimmerman on YouTube.
Well, it was on it was on TikTok anyway. So I mean, I used the TikTok video editor to put it together.
Right. If it was on the editor, then that's okay. Yeah, cool. And check out our Twitter and Facebook as well. For anybody who's into your social media bits, we've got a few bits on there, and check us out. We're going to be posting little tidbits there, and Josh is going to be keeping you up to date with his community service videos.
I'm going to try and record an episode whilst doing it.
Awesome. Right.
Pretty interesting.
Okay. Where were we? Oh yeah, I was talking about all the new people getting involved in London and everything, which was brilliant to see, and that's going to carry on. A lot of people who are going with these regions, it's going to be the first time that they've done stuff with Just Stop Oil, or even like any kind of marches or demonstrating or civil disobedience at all. And then while I was down there, I had my day in court at Stratford. Have you ever been to Stratford before, Josh?
I'm sure I had court dates at Stratford. I didn't go to them though.
Right.
I'm still there.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what was that for then? What?
That was for an arrest in Parliament Square last October. It was on October the 4th. And there were.
And what was he arrested for?
That was for willful obstruction of the public highway, which is quite a common one in Just Stop Oil. Sitting in the road, basically, for those who aren't familiar with the legislation. There were 54 people arrested on that day, on that action, in the different streets leading up to Parliament Square itself, and I was one of them. So we've been seeing in dribs and drabs. Quite a few people had already had the plea hearings before I went to Stratford, and I'm going to be back for a trial. That's in January of next year, in 2024. So we'll see how that goes. Pled not guilty, obviously, under under the European Convention of Human Rights, and also with the Ziegler case, which we won't go into in detail now, but that's a common form of defence for a lot of those of us who.
Yeah, the judges keep shooting those down, though, don't they?
They do it. It varies from court to court, but we'll see. We'll have our day in court, and that's something I'll keep people posted with next year, hopefully. Obviously you've been in court a few times yourself.
Actually, you see this book is I had this in court with me for a few weeks, and actually made notes in here about what was happening in court.
Yeah.
And I was reading a bit of it the other day, and it's just because I remember being really moved in the court, and I just want to read a little bit to you from this. I just came across the other day.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, this is in the Silverstone case, and Bethany is a mother of 4 boys. She's got 4 children. So it says, Day 7 in court. I'm currently listening to Beth give evidence on the stand. Beth is a mother of 4. She's doing this for her children. She is so incredibly brave on a level I struggle to even put into words. She is risking her life and her freedom to safeguard this world for her children. Seeing her on the stand being so emotional makes me tear up and cry. I try not to let it show to the jury, but I don't think it was possible to hide. I love the bravery of these people. Like, I remember that day, like, Bethany got on the stand to give evidence, and she was crying. Not because she was in court, or because she was being punished, or she was being seen as a criminal, because she's got 4 children, and those children, she knows, are gonna not have a livable planet. They're gonna have a horrendous time. And she was feeling that, and she was feeling her reasons why she was doing that, and we all got emotional watching her. I wish I'd been able to do this podcast all the way through, since I got let out of prison, but I was banned from talking about protesting, so I couldn't.
Yeah.
There's a lot I could talk about but I should have been podcasting all the way through that, to be honest. That was it was an interesting trial anyway. The F1 case. Bloody hell, we had the prosecution, Mr. Jones. It was a proper straight-laced, straight-cut, barrister who was like, this typical evil barrister. I don't think he's evil, but he's fucking seems evil to me. He's good at his job.
Yeah.
This funny thing about this Mr. Jones is he's putting Louis in prison twice already. The same prosecution barrister. So Lou is like, oh, he's just Mr. Jones again. He's put me in prison twice. Oh man, can't share another thing about that trial that was really difficult. Was I was in the stand with my co-defendants, Emily and Louis and David and Bethany and Al, and I was not allowed to talk to them. I was not allowed to acknowledge them or talk to them at all, even though I was sat next to them. Mate,
That's crazy.
that was rough, that.
Yeah.
That was really difficult. Can you imagine sitting next to 5 of your best mates and for like 7 hours a day, every day for 3 weeks, and if you speak to them, you go to prison? And you're going through some real difficult shit at the same time.
I can't imagine.
Mate, that was
really
fucking
difficult.
horrendous, that. On the first day, like,
Yeah.
I feel really close with Louis and Emily, because I've been through quite a lot with them both. And on the first day, I've sat Emily and Louis on each side of me, like this, and they're talking past me, and I can't even look at them or acknowledge them. And I actually felt like I wanted to cry, to be honest, at that moment. And like, I was dying inside because I just wanted to give them a big hug, because I'd not seen them in months, and I couldn't even like be seen to communicate with them anyway, even though they could all talk to each other.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking tight, to be honest. But I asked my barrister if I could get moved to the very corner of the room, so at least I wasn't like sat in fucking between them.
Yeah.
And that made it a bit easier. And then after 2 weeks of like being sitting with my best friends and not being able to talk to them, they started to feel like strangers. You know, when you're like on a train and stuff, and there's like strangers in front of you, and they're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
And you don't think about talking to them, do you? And joining in the conversation. It was like I was in a box with like a couple of like 5 strangers, to be honest. After 3 weeks.
Must be so surreal.
And then when it ended, I turned around and went, "Hello, it's nice to talk to you." And I think at one point Emily, like, I think on the day that all got lifted, I was in the pub with Emily. I'm trying to talk to Emily, And she's like, look, I don't have the energy to talk to you right now. I went, Emily, for the love of God, I've been stood next to you for 3 fucking weeks, unable to say a word to you. Can you just give me a fucking minute, please? And she's like, fair point. Oh, God.
Man.
That was fucked. I was so fucking tight, that.
Yeah.
Evil motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awful.
But this book is full of speeches and
What have you got?
stuff that I've wrote
What have
in.
you got there? Oh, your book. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've gone way over the hour now because of, we've put quite a few clips into this episode. So, yeah, we'll more or less start to wrap it up for this episode. We've just got a quick plug to do. We've got a little announcement to make, and it's a great way that you can help out, support the channel on Patreon. We've just got our Patreon account sorted. There are links in the descriptions for the videos. 2 packages. We've got $3 a month and $10 a month. Various benefits, including exclusive content and shout outs at the end of the episode. So, Josh,
I've got an idea. So for the exclusive content, part of it, I will my writings that I was in court when I was in the moment. There's a lot. It's quite raw material, but I've been meaning to turn it into video speeches, and what we'll do is we'll put all the raw footage in the Patreon, and we'll also make a behind the scenes as well of how we got started with this podcast and how all the
Awesome.
the behind the scenes stuff that everyone else
Yeah.
get to see.
so plenty of advantages from helping to support us on Patreon, and we really do appreciate it because we're a really brand new
It's
channel.
more than that as well. It's more than that as well. Like,
Yeah.
we want to be able to get some proper recording equipment, and we
Yeah,
want to be
it
able
goes
to
a
get
long
some
way towards
microphones. And
supporting us and our tech. And do you just want to give a final shout out for our other social media, Josh, before we wrap this one up?
yeah, so we've got TikTok, but TikTok's doing 10,000 views on its own, so that doesn't need much help. We've got the Facebook and the Twitter, which are mainly just for sharing these videos out. I want to expand to Rumble, which is another version of YouTube, and really kind of spread out. So far it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok are the
Awesome.
main ones.
Brilliant. And yeah, we're going to keep our eye on these ongoing actions down in London, especially the government and police's reaction to them. So keep your eye out for another episode coming soon here on YouTube and all our other little bits on social media. So for this episode, that's it from Activism Uncensored. Take care, everyone, and check out the links and get involved.
I love you all.
We love you
I want
all.
to say what I want to say. Yes, you beautiful, amazing, incredible human beings. I love you all.
Yeah. Okay. See you soon.